Hi, I'm Michael Cheika, and this is my Snapshot. This photo's a photo from, I think it would have been 1988, Randwick, which was my club team, where I'm brought up, born and bred, against New Zealand All Blacks. My recollection is at the time that the tradition was that the All Blacks would come here and tour, and the first game on the tour was against the reigning club champions of that time. I don't know if it was a tradition or if they just brought it in, but what I did know is they weren't too happy about it. They'd just been in Wales and beaten the Welsh, I think by 50 odd, which was quite unique for that period. They were storming and they weren't really happy about kicking off the tour against a club team in the local ground, so they decided to put out their full kit and to maybe teach us a lesson on that day. So I was only a young fella, I think maybe 20, 21 at the time, and I just remember on game day there was such a great atmosphere, and it was almost larger than life. I didn't know a lot about the New Zealand haka at the time, so standing in front of it for the first time was a really interesting experience. And then when it got down to the nitty-gritty of the game, I don't really remember a lot of it, apart from how it was so much faster than what we'd normally play. And it was a good day out. It's not often you have a good day when you lose, but we actually competed really quite well, and the game was in the balance for a fair while. So I remember a moment in the game where Simon Poitevin was getting his head ripped off by one of their players, and that started a bit of a melee. And once that started, the tensions got quite high. And for me, it was probably my first step. I think I played in Australian 21s that year. It was also my first step into real footy, I think, like really understanding what the next level was about. This is an interesting photo for a sports interview, I think, but it's a photo of Colette Dinnigan, who probably at that time was Australia's premier fashion designer. She was, being invited to runway shows in Paris, in Milan, New York at the time. So she was probably the top of the pops when it came to fashion. How was I connected to her? Well, it's almost a little bit embarrassing, this story, but I should probably tell it because it's a huge part of my life, how this sort of connection, or that duality between, two opposites, rugby and fashion. I think that's pretty safe to say. So I'd been playing in Europe back in the day, in the amateur era. I played in France for a few years and played in Italy in a few years as well. And then in the mid-90s, I think probably around 96 or so, I decided I wanted to come back and spend some time in Oz. When I come back, I had to get a job. So this was back in the day when you used to look in the newspaper for job ads. So I was scouring the paper. I saw a position with Colette Dinnigan as a business manager. Now, the ad also said, speaks French and Italian because they're working in the European countries. So I figured there's some things that I can do. The rest of it I'm not quite sure of, right? So I thought about how could I apply for this position and be a chance for it. So I looked through the Leb cousin directory and found a couple of my cousins who had a fashion shop on Oxford Street in Paddington. And I sort of created the rest of my CV from there, that I was managing in fashion and doing all that type of stuff. And this is really what things are about, it's about the personal contact. I met Colette, she brought me in for an interview, met her probably 2 or 3 times over a period of 4 or 5 days, and we hit it off really well. And she was obviously an expert in her field, and she gave me the opportunity to become part of that business. And it was awesome because I was learning on the job, which she probably didn't know at the time, but I was also using the skills that I could around handling people, managing people was something I was good at. I didn't realise it, but it was something that I was good at. I had the languages, so I was able to be someone who could be roughing it up playing footy on a weekend, and then maybe the weekend later I was running security on the door at the fashion parades in Paris. Or it was a great contrast in life for me. I really enjoyed it, and those experiences that I got through her then led me into my own business in that same industry, which is still going today. So I've got a lot to thank her for taking the punt on me and giving me the chance, but also just love the whole contrast in being 41 day fashion the next. This is a photo of myself giving a pre-match or half-time talk in Padova in Italy, which was my first experience of coaching. I was never really thinking about being a coach. I was just playing footy back in Australia. I think it was the late 90s, 99, and I got a call from David Campese, who was my teammate of mine back in the day at Randwick, about this was his club, Padova, when he played in Italy, and he had quite a successful stint over there. When Campo asked me about it, it took me back probably to how I started playing rugby in the first place. I didn't really think about coaching. I thought more like, this sounds like a good holiday, you know? Northern Italy, you know, you're right near Venice. I'm about ripe for this type of idea. I'd been working and playing, you know, working in the fashion industry as well at that time. So yeah, I just took the punt, and I could speak Italian because I played there. So I thought, if I'm going to try this coaching stuff, I'll have a go in a foreign place where nobody knows me, and if I can do it there and I enjoy it, then maybe it's something that I want to do. So it was great, you know. I think the people there were super into what I had to bring to the team, even though I probably had no idea about how to deliver at that time. And doing it in a different language, I think, was really important for me, because it was tricky, you know, communication's everything in coaching. And I think if I look at that photo, the important thing about coaching teams in different countries, even where maybe you can't get a gist, this is something I learned there, you can't get a gist of the language, in the nuances of the language to get them, tone, body language, everything is super important, and somehow they understand what you want from them. And it's not often that you get to ply your trade as a footy coach or as a footy player, you know, during the week, and then on a Wednesday you might have the day off and you get to get on the train and go 20 minutes and you're sitting in Venice, you know what I mean, riding a gondola down the canals. So it was unbelievable, awesome experience. Well, this photo is obviously a referral to a broken window at Canberra Stadium. I think it's back in 2014 when I was coaching the Tars, and for me it probably talks about two things. One is about where success starts. That year we ended up winning the competition, but that was the first game of the season down there, and I'm pretty sure we got dusted by the look of the window. It tells you about the passion that keeps you coming back, that keeps you getting up off the ground to come back and search for success, as opposed to giving in and accepting the results. And yes, that can boil over sometimes, and you've got to try and stay in control of it wherever possible. There probably could have been a couple of controversial calls that day that led to that scenario, you know. And I think often as a coach, you're also trying to, in everything you do, you're trying to send a message to your players. And even though that's not where you want to end up, it's the feeling that, you know, we're better than this, we can do better, and we deserve better almost, and that's what we've got to keep striving for. It's all something as a coach that you've got to take in, you know, and you've got to decide when you want to show your emotion. This whole thing about getting angry inside coaches' boxes or inside dressing rooms, it's been going on forever, right? I think when we were coached by different people, and the amount of times chaps had lost it inside of there is amazing. And obviously worse than this happens today, but what's changed is the fact that now people can see it. I don't mind people seeing that from inside the dressing room, as long as they don't judge, you know, because there's a whole lot of circumstances that are going on, a lot of things that you're trying to achieve, plus your own personal emotions that are going on at that time. So Craig Bellamy's a great example, you know what I mean? I think that's a weapon for him, you know, where he uses that, where he's not scared to show his emotions publicly, because he knows that that's a sign to everyone of how badly he wants to win. This was about a game we played against Queensland early, I think it was in 2014. And part of the turnaround process involved with any team, I've always been often involved in these turnaround type projects, and that was what it was with the Tars. One of the biggest targets for you is usually your biggest derby rival or arch enemy, and the tradition of New South Wales and Queensland has always been one in all codes that has been strong, and we'd been beaten by Queensland twice in the year before, in the first year that I coached at the Tars. And I felt like this is a really important fixture to build confidence. And obviously the Tah's reputation had been about not delivering in the past, and many teams let the players know that when on field, you know what I mean? So there's different types of reactions to that type of, sledge or prompting or provocation. And that's to go hard back at them or to try to take the initiative. And then sometimes it's to do exactly what the opposition don't want you to do. And it's not easy, but this one was more about, right, we're going to get in their faces, but when the barb comes or when the sledge comes back about, never delivering or not paying any attention to it, just getting on with your business, because that's often what the opposition want, to lure you into losing your focus, your concentration on what you got to do on that day. And part of what we do in the contact sport is trying to dominate the physical part of the game. So there's a mental cue that goes with that. And for me, the whole idea of a poker face in this instance was about being provocative, but then not being reactionary. So not reacting to what the opposition does, whether it's verbal or whether it's footy, but being proactive in taking the game, the mental battle, the physical battle to the opponent, and not reacting to anything that came back from the other side. I felt that the best way to deliver that message was through a picture, and even a basic, very basic picture, even more to simplify the message. So, do you understand exactly what I mean? And I think before that game, that was a real clear message to players, and that's exactly what we did in that game. And I think we come away with a really nice victory. This is a photo that's got a lot of, I suppose, meaning on various fronts, so you could take it any way. It's a photo of Bernard Foley kicking a match-winning goal, like pretty much after full time in the World Cup quarter-final in 2015. And I think for me, this photo, even though there's many ways you could look at it, talks about faith, trust in people, because in that World Cup, I asked a young fella who really didn't have a whole lot of coaching experience to join the coaching team, Chris Malone, as the kicking coach. And he did a really nice job, He was a really good kicker himself as a player, and I really liked his demeanour around players. I really enjoyed being involved with him. In this game, early on, we actually scored we'd had a huge pool campaign, obviously, so we had to try to manage the emotional load into the quarterfinal after we'd beaten England and Wales and Fiji in the lead up to get to this point. And we had a couple of players missing, but in the game we actually played quite well. We especially in the attacking front, and we scored I think two or three more tries than Scotland in that game. But in the first half, Bernard was having not the greatest day off the tee, so there was a fair few kicks that we missed, and it kept Scotland in touch from a scoreboard point of view. Just as we went in for half time, I spoke to Chris, who, this was a big stage, and I said to him, you need to tell me what we're doing with Foley. Like, is he staying on? Is he kicking? Is he going to keep kicking? Because we had other options for goal kicking in the team. Is he going to stay on? Is he going to? I need you to tell me what to do with him. And I knew that was a big call because he's only young on the scene around coaching, and it's obviously a big situation. And I remember he handled it so well, as opposed to me losing confidence and taking that decision out of his hands. He said, let me have a talk to him at half time. We'll have a look at some of the technical things, and I'll let you know on the way back out of the tunnel. So, I saw him talking to Bernard during the game. As he came out of the tunnel, he said, we've got a handle on it. Let's have a look at his first two kicks, and then we'll make a decision from there. So I was okay with that. He missed the first one after half time, then he got the second one. And straight after that, Chris said to me, he's got himself back into the sync, like the timing he needs. Let's keep him on for the rest of the game. And when it came down to that last kick, I remember having a glance, no words were exchanged. I had a glance over to him, and he was looking for me already from from that point of view, but almost just had a little smile on my face. So, right, it's all come down to this, you know, the call is on. And of course he made the right call, because Bernard kicked a goal that, you know, took us through to the next round, most importantly, but also that validated a lot of things for us as a group. The preparation that we'd done that got us to the next stage, like a semi-final where no one expected us to be. And also for Chris, who'd done a really great job and, you know, really was a great coach in that unit for us. Yeah, this is a photo from 2019 World Cup, post the quarter-final, I think, in Oita against England. Pretty symbolic, you know what I mean? You got the look there of a couple of people who put everything into it and then didn't get what they want from it. You know, I think that's pretty apt sort of picture. You know, it's not a look of being shattered or anything like that. I think it was more about, we could have been better, you know, but it was the smaller details that got away from us in that campaign, and probably right back to everything that happened in the build up to that World Cup. So I think it showed the emotion that was there at the time. I felt that there was only one step that I could have taken, like for the Australian Rugby Union to have the confidence in me to go on from the 15 World Cup to the 19 World Cup. There was only one way that I could pay them back, and that was to take the team a step further, which was obviously to win the tournament. And, you know, I knew from the first day that I decided that I was going to keep doing that, that was the only way that I could, well, not that I could pay back and then, you know, how could I say, deserve the opportunity to stay as the coach, whether it was to be or not, was to go on and take the team to victory, because you're in the final in 15. The next logical step is to win the tournament in 19, from my point of view. And I think that just was a picture there that says we came up against, you know, we did so much, we came up against a lot of obstacles, and we just couldn't achieve what we wanted to, you know, and there was a certain amount of disappointment about that. This photo is just probably 3 or 4 minutes before the kick-off of, up there with one of the biggest games I've ever been involved in, you know, to be up in the top 3. It was the semi-final of the European Cup in 2009 between Leinster and Munster. Now, obviously Munster is it's the New South Wales, Queensland of Ireland, for those that are here in Australia, or whatever the big derbies are around the world. This is one of the biggest as well. And this was I suppose the metamorphosis, the replay. So in 2005-06, we had this same battle at Lansdowne Road, which is the traditional home of Irish rugby, where we came in off the back of a huge win against Toulouse and a little bit shock, where Munster were the traditional favourites there. And we looked good in the build-up, but came to a crushing halt at that semi-final. And this was probably the culmination of all the rebuilding work for over 3 years to get us to a point where we came to this same contest against a well-favoured Munster. I think they'd had 8 or 9 players picked in the Lions squad only the week before. Paul O'Connell as the captain as well. We got to Croke Park. It was, if not 50-50, a little bit more blue. It was obviously an amazing atmosphere with 80,000 people, and it was almost set up for us because everything had been about Munster, you know, all their players getting selected in the Lions tour, the captain, and we were almost under the radar, but we're so totally reverse picture to what happened at Lansdowne Road. And then when we got there, we saw the crowd support, and we had a really good theming going into that season and how that was finishing up. It felt like in that huddle there that there was no way we were going to lose. Even though everyone else had probably, bar our supporters, would have supported Munster or tipped Munster to win that game. It's probably one of the most invincible I've felt with a team before a game. And sure enough, we played that way and we went out there, even to the point where, you know, I think when Brian O'Driscoll it was really interesting because they know each other so well, those two groups of players, and he played a lot with Ronan O'Gara. So he knew the ins and outs of how he played the game, and when Ronan tried to throw a pass to put Munster in a really strong attacking position as they were attacking us, it's almost like Brian was able to read his mind, and he came out of the line for no really good reason, took an intercept, ran 70 to score. It almost felt like even from there, that was it. It was all cemented, you know, the confirmation of every bit of work we'd done leading into that, and then we went on, win that game, and then go on and beat Leicester in the final to win the European Cup that year. First one for Leinster ever. Well, this is a photo from, I'm not sure what year it was exactly, maybe 2021 or 2020. There's my good mate Mario Ledesma in the middle, and I'm sort of hanging around in the background there. Mario was coaching Argentina at the time, and he'd been my coach with the Wallabies before that. He asked me to come along with them for the tour that year and see if I could lend him a bit of a hand in some specific issues in coaching. Argentinian players hadn't played any rugby for over a year, if I'm not wrong, as a team together. I think it was like a year and a half nearly since they'd played rugby because of COVID, obviously, and some of the restrictions that were put in place. They'd also moved on the Jaguars from Super Rugby. They'd been taken out of Super Rugby. This was the culmination of no games, but just a massive build-up. I think it was the first game off the back of playing off the back of this in this series, and it was so interesting for me to be involved inside of another team's culture at the national level. I'd never played Test footy myself, so I knew the Australian Wallaby culture. So to be involved with another country's preparation was like, it affected me a lot. It was strange, it felt odd. Even if you look in the picture, like the blue kit that they're wearing, I remember it was pretty funny that when I first got there, like I said to Mario, I don't know how I'm gonna put other teams' gear on, you know what I mean? Because I said, I'll just wear a different piece every day, I'll try and add. Like, so the first day I didn't wear any of the blue, second day I wore a t-shirt only, then, you know, slowly but surely. And some of the players having to go at me saying, come on, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you wearing the team kit? But it just took me time to sort of adapt into that, you know, especially in the role I was in. There's so much talent there, there's so much good nature, so much great intention and so much motivation, so much pride in their country, that a bit more self-belief could take them a long way. And I think in that game, I was actually having a laugh up in the coach's box because the lads were so tight up there, you know, and I suppose because I was in such a different situation, I say, let's just take every 10 minutes at a time. We'll see how the score goes after 10 minutes, and the stress up there, and you know, as you get more involved in the game and you're in the game with a chance, and I think that shows, you know, about belief, like maybe something we didn't believe we could do, because when you haven't done it, you don't believe you can do it, and that's normal for everyone and everything. And as you get closer, you start to believe more and more that you can do it. And that's where the real pressure comes, because for that faint moment, you start to think, well, we can actually do this, and it's almost like there's something there that you can lose. Whereas before, you didn't think there was anything to lose, and that's where it takes the courage to go on and make the plays and make the important moves to go on and win the game and do the things you haven't done before.